Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to the first Tuesday Tea of 2025. I'm so excited to have Alexandria on with us today. I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you a bit about what she's up to. But we were able to meet over a really cool offer that we collaborated on called TheraBundle. I've had a few other folks from that collaboration on as well. So just really getting to bring you lots of new voices, new perspectives, and people with some incredible wisdom and skill sets and things to offer of really jumpstarting this new year. And I'm excited to get into it. So thanks for being here, Alexandria.
Thank you so much for having me. And to be first of the year, I feel extra special. It's
Yes.
a really fun way to kick off the year.
Yes. No, I'm
So
so excited.
thank you for that.
So maybe just give us a little insight, like where are you hailing from? Who are you? What do you do? Just a little background so folks know kind of like who's talking with them today.
Sure. So currently I am in New Jersey. It is snowing like crazy outside, so it is nice to be toasty inside.
Nice and warm.
Um, I am a therapist by trade, but have put my therapy hat kind of on hold and have been focusing all of my attention on the marketing side of it. I
Mm,
kind of came into this world unexpectedly. I always pretty much grew up expecting to be a therapist, wanting to be a therapist. I kind of lived in that world because I
yeah.
feel like everybody in my family does something medical in some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
Um, Ultimately, it led me to private practice, which I adored. And then life happened. I had a beautiful baby girl, and I went back to my private practice, and I didn't feel that I was the same person who I was before, and I needed to change with that. And with
Mm,
that, I evolved my practice. So I was doing more evals than individual therapy. But with
mhm.
that, really developed a love for the marketing side of things and figured, you know what? Why not put myself first for a chance? Like I'm always
Yeah.
taking care of others. And now, especially with the new little bundle,
Yeah.
this is going to be something just for me.
I love that.
And I dove into it. I love it. And so now not only do I do blogging for myself, I teach other therapists and coaches and wellness professionals how to do blogging for themselves, whether that is
Mm,
for a professional side of their life or even if it's just a personal fun project, because it's opened so many doors for me that I didn't even know
awesome.
existed. I want to make sure that that work gets out for other people if they want to go through that door as well.
I love that. What a fun journey. And I love that point you made of really sitting back and thinking, okay, this is like the should or the plan or what I thought I was doing. And then like really listening to yourself and what changed and what you need and being able to show up for yourself and respond to that accordingly. Even if I'm sure it was kind of a leap of faith or a little scary to like totally leave. It's always there, you could go back, but to
Yeah,
like to venture so hard from what you have been doing or what you thought you would just kind of always be doing
yeah,
forever.
yeah. It definitely took some soul searching. It took some kind of personal therapy on my end to figure out what I wanted to do. And I still have that hat and I still wear that hat. My private practice is still up and running.
Mhm.
But I was able to branch out and see other identities of myself and not
Mm,
just be a therapist,
yes.
which can be hard because, especially, and I mean, I'm a social worker by trade.
Okay.
There's that kind of unspoken rule of once a social worker, always a social worker. And that spreads into ethics wise, like how you interact with people and what you do. And so trying to navigate, okay, well, how do I have this other facet of life that is equally as important but still do so in a way that feels authentic to me, but also
Hmm.
protects that license that I work so damn hard for. Quite frankly,
Hmm.
like you don't want to lose it
Hmm.
or jeopardize it in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
And that balance is a juggle, and
Yes.
helping people navigate it is what I hope to do.
Yes. And I can totally relate. I started my coaching practice and then got certified with a professional who helped therapists do coaching. So
Mhm,
again, we do it ethically and correctly and protect our license, our social work license,
mhm.
and then just got my Pilates certification. So entering into a lot more in that world. So I think it is so freeing to get to do other things because we are people who are not just one thing and
Yeah,
professionally get to do other things because our jobs as therapists can be a lot more restricted, which is
correct.
some argue not fair, some like that's appropriate, whatever the reasons, there's a lot more rules. So I think it is
Mhm.
fun to get to dive into that more creative side or get to work with other folks in other ways that we aren't always able to in that therapist hat. But it can be that like balance game of, am I doing it right? And
Yeah.
what does it look like? And the trust and all the unlearning things we were taught that weren't so helpful from social work school, the business side of it, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a really fun journey. But I guess taking all of that, just like your personal maybe evolution of where you've landed professionally and also what you do professionally to help others, as we're kind of thinking about the new year, it's a time when folks really, I think, get all hyped up on like resolutions and goals and
Mhm.
big plans. And a lot of times those don't work. There's all those like colloquialisms of, what is it like January 3rd's the week everyone fails or whatever.
Mhm.
So just thinking in that broad scope of what do you think you could bring to the table, or what would be helpful to the listeners as we're kind of thinking of new year energy? Maybe there's the overwhelm and fear, but also the excitement. Just bringing in your expertise and your lens, kind of open the door in that broad question. But what would be helpful for people to hear as they're like venturing
Yeah.
into 2025?
I love this question, especially around the new year, because I think everybody, myself included, has like a love-hate relationship with resolutions, right? Like you love the fresh start, you love the excitement of it, but it also can be really daunting, right? Especially to plan out your whole year
Yeah.
and where you want to be
Yeah.
in and try and cram it into one day or one night. So I do a couple different things, but I kind of fall under two philosophies. And one came from a mentor of mine who introduced me to the book, The 12-Week Year. Have you ever heard of that
I have
before?
heard of it. I feel like I need to read it because I've heard of it from quite a few people.
Yeah.
So
I love the book. I would definitely recommend reading it. It's a pretty quick read. But essentially what the sum of it is as opposed to committing yourself to one big project for the whole year, right? Condense it into a 90-day span, right? So it makes
mhm,
it more realistic. You evaluate every 90 days, kind of like if you were doing a treatment plan with a client,
right.
what's working and what's not working, and you make those goals small and attainable.
Mhm,
So I kind of keep that in my back pocket and look at, okay, well, for the next 90 days, what do I want to accomplish? And I try and pick one goal, right? And
okay.
that's sometimes really hard to do, but it gives me the
Yeah.
flexibility. I can do that 4 times throughout the year. So I don't have to do them all
Mm,
at once.
right.
And I also spend a lot of time listening to my body. As women, we function differently than men oftentimes, and we go on different cycles. And there's a
Mhm,
whole different chapter that people will talk about like the cycle syncing and things like that. But I also kind of participate in that. And I know that there's different weeks during the month where I am super energetic and can get things done and really kind of kick out those resolution
yeah.
goals, and other days where I need to rest. And so within those 90 days, I try and listen to where I'm at in my
Mm,
body and
mhm,
focus on the tasks that are going to get me what I want, but also not pressuring myself to give 100% every single day, if that makes
mhm.
sense.
Yeah, because I think the point is that our 100% looks different every single day.
Yeah,
Like even if you're giving
absolutely.
100, it's not the same 100 across the board, across all time, right?
Correct, correct, and that's why I fell in love with blogging, is because it allowed me that flexibility where there are
Mm,
some days where I have ideas that are popping left and right, and so I can bang out a whole bunch of different outlines and topics and do the keyword research for it. And then there are other days where I'm more in that kind of introverted, cozy, give me a laptop, a cup of coffee, and I can just write for hours, and that's when I'll do the bulk of the
mm,
fleshing it out piece of it.
mm.
And then there are other days where I just want nothing to do with
You're like,
with human
this is not
life.
my
I wanna
job
kinda
today.
be by myself. Yep.
Yeah,
And
it's
just
somewhere else.
I'll play on Canva and make the pictures for it and the social media posts, and so it all gets done,
Right,
but in a way that works for my business, my life, my family,
right.
and all ends up with a beautiful end piece.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's done in one day or 4 weeks, it doesn't matter. That's
Mm-hmm.
the beauty of blogging. I can pick it up and start off whenever I need to.
What do you think, what works for you, or what would you tell clients or a friend or whoever else to get out of the pressure and
Mhm.
maybe this like very learned mindset of, but also like you have to do it, or but you're not as good today because you didn't like check these boxes, or I think it's maybe in that perfectionism mindset or the pressured living mindset, comparison mindset, which logically we can know, okay, I
Mhm.
shouldn't think like that, or it's okay, or it does get done. But what has been helpful? I don't know if maybe you struggle with some of those things. Like, what's been helpful for you to to accept and lean into this different sort of flow that maybe looks a little less traditional than what we're socialized to think work, especially the woman, should look like.
Absolutely.
Or what would you tell someone else who's kind of struggling with like having pushback around like, oh, but like a rest day doesn't sound good, or I can't do, like what kind of helps with that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's something that I definitely struggle with, and I noticed that I struggle with it during certain weeks, and it will be the
Mm-hmm.
strongest then. And so that's where keeping a track of things, even if it's just I love my Aura ring, so it tells me kind of where
Mm,
things are, and I
yeah.
can track different symptoms and stuff. And so I can kind of know, okay, this is going to be the week where my brain is going to play tricks on me and tell me these stories that are not as helpful. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a good way to reframe it. Also asking myself, well, whose voice is this? Like, is this actually my voice and feeling guilty for not getting the work done?
Or
Or
is it
is it,
somebody else?
yeah, someone else's? Is it mom's voice? Is it
Yeah.
an old professor? Is it a friend who is not really the friend, but like that competition,
Right.
right? And that can
Some
kind of
random
help put things in
account on
perspective.
Instagram doing
Exactly,
their
right?
life. Yeah.
And that could help give me a step back, right? Because if it's my voice, okay, like let's listen to that. But if it's
Mm-hmm.
some person that really shouldn't have too much of a say in it, right? But just sounds like it's living in my head, well, it gives me that pause. And sometimes all I need is that pause, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think just, yeah, getting out of that more emotion filled brain where we're just like making the snowball bigger and bigger and
Yeah.
stepping back enough to get into the
Yeah.
logic brain a bit to ask those questions can
Yeah. And
be
the more you can get out of your head and into your body, like I know that's a very therapist answer to say.
no, but
It
it's,
really does
yeah,
it does help
it's
you. If
real.
you can
Yeah.
notice the trend that this tends to
Mm-hmm.
happen during
Mm-hmm.
this week, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
when things are stressful, this is when my brain starts to go haywire.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself, do more self-care. And I'm not just talking like mani pedis. Like I'm talking
Right.
like,
Right.
are you sleeping enough? Are you actually eating throughout the day? Or did you forget because
Right.
you've been so busy?
Right.
Right.
Did you
Having
move your
extra hydration
body?
and water, this
Drinking
thing has now
water.
become an
Same.
appendage
I
like
know. I'm
that,
like,
like
yeah.
right? Those basic things matter, and if you need to do something extra to remind yourself during those tough weeks, you
Yeah.
gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. And this, I'm just thinking, even just this weekend, I had a list of stuff. I just had a challenge kickoff today, and I had to like record this thing, I get this email, and I was like, I'm going to do it all Saturday because my husband now works on Saturdays for part of the day, and I did not. You know what I did? I like gave myself a facial, and I sat on my couch and listened to a whole audiobook, and I did work out, I did go outside, but I just could tell I was not in the space to do the kind of work I needed to do that day. I got it done
Mhm,
yesterday, but
mhm.
I do think like as a real life example, sometimes we have to push through because like there is a deadline or there is a thing, but rarely is it that serious. And I think just by listening and saying, I'm gonna do this tomorrow and I think I'm gonna be have the energy and be more productive, it was a much better experience. I think I took care of
Yeah,
myself how I needed to take care of myself Saturday. And then I busted all out in like an hour. It didn't even take me as long as it potentially could have. And it would have been a much more miserable experience to like force myself on Saturday. Right. So I
yeah,
think that idea of listening in to both body and thoughts, but giving yourself that permission, it really actually sets you up for more success than it feels like maybe that failure voice is saying it will in the moment.
yeah. No, it absolutely does, and I mean, a part of that, at least from my experience, comes from practicing it and listening to your
Yes,
body and seeing those examples of like this actually can work. Like the first couple times you do it, it's gonna
it's
feel
uncomfortable.
horrifying 'cause you're doing
Yeah,
something different.
yeah,
It's supposed to be uncomfortable.
yeah,
But once you realize the world doesn't collapse, even if you did miss a deadline, it doesn't feel as catastrophic anymore.
right. There are like very few things are that serious that you just can't like the repercussions for missing it or not doing it is like the worst thing ever, right?
Yes.
There's a scale, but very few live in like the all or like the worst thing ever land, even though we
Correct.
make a lot of it seem that way.
Yeah.
Um, what do you find like what's your process for sort of setting those 90-day goals? I also do, I haven't read that book, but I do something where I do my Q 1, 2, 3, 4
Mhm.
goals and I have a little whiteboard and I have very few, but it's like, yeah, for these 90 days, like what are the things I really want to do or focus on? But what's kind of like been your process, or what do you share with folks if they're thinking of trying to like, it all feels like a lot, what's a good way to kind of break it down, or identify what one goal you're even going to choose, or how to kind of get there?
Yeah, I think looking at the actions are really going to be important. Like, what tangibly, when can I check this off a list kind of thing and know that it's done, not just the feeling of it being done. So I'm going to use like a blog post as an example, because a lot of times that will be a goal of mine for the quarters. I want X amount of posts done. So I'll give myself a deadline of, okay, by week 2, I want, excuse me, 5 different posts drafted. And drafted means a solid headline, a strong like skeleton outline, and call to actions, right?
Okay.
This way, at the end of that week, I can look at it and either check off, yes, I completed it, no, I did not. And if I didn't, what was the reason why? Did I not give myself enough time, right? Was it too big of a project to complete? Did I procrastinate? Or did life events just kind of pop up unexpectedly that kind of got me through it? Sorry.
No, you're good.
And then making altercations for the next week, right? Not just putting it back on the list because I didn't complete it, therefore let's try it again. Looking at it and evaluating, how can I make it achievable?
Yeah.
And keep doing that. So it's a bit of a reach, but every time I feel confident that I can get it completed.
You can do it.
Exactly. That's what's most helpful for me.
No, I think that's a great way to look at it. And I think it makes goals feel less daunting. I always think like you can always add on, but it's much harder for our brain to take away. So even if it's super small, like maybe you said 2 and you wrote 4, great. Like overachieve, no problem. But to say 10 and you only have, 2 hours in the week to work on it, and I don't know how long it takes, but that seems like too much. Like it should be scaled back. And I like that idea too, of that it's not a judgment. You're not like, I failed, I didn't do this, I'm bad, I'm whatever. It's information to get curious of how things need to shift to set you up for better success. The next.
And I try and look at each action step is something that I could do in 20 minutes, right? That gives me, because yes, I can say, okay, let's write a whole blog post. That's an action, it's done, complete. That's going to take me a hell of a lot longer. That's the 20 minutes.
Right.
But a skeleton, I can probably do in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
A paragraph or 2, maybe 20 minutes or so, right? And if I have 20-minute chunks, maybe it's like 10 total tasks that'll get the project complete, but at least it's more manageable. Because most of the time I can break my life down to 20-minute chunks.
I like that. And I think a lot of us can. Someone once, I don't know where, maybe someone said it or I heard it on podcasts. I didn't come up with this, but someone once was like, go to your phone, go to your most used apps, look at how much time you spend in those most used ones. Can you take 10 minutes, 20 minutes away from one of them? And they're probably dumb things like your email, Instagram, TikTok, Google, like, it's stuff that we could do 20 minutes less of that. And like life would go on just fine, right? It's not an important, I can't give this time up kind of thing. Like I was playing with my kid, or I was in session with a client. Like, no, we can't necessarily take that away, or we wouldn't want to, but the other stuff we can. So I thought that just helps give perspective when we're like, we have no time. I don't know. Like we do have all the time. It's just how we're using our time. And we're very unaware, I think, of how much time we waste, or how, because things can be more efficient, and thinking of something in a 20-minute chunk is a much more efficient way to fit it throughout your actual day with stuff that's going on than I need 3 hours uninterrupted, that like most people with kids and a job and a life are not gonna just have all the time.
And for some people, I mean, especially the moms out there, like it can be really hard to find 20 minutes. Like you genuinely might not have that in your time to like pull or give up anything. So maybe it's giving it to yourself. And this I know is something that I had to give myself permission to. Like okay, my daughter can watch 20 minutes of Sesame Street, so I can do this for me. Whether that's a
Yeah,
personal project, whether that's a business project, right? She'll be thrilled because God knows if she can get Elmo for
right,
20 minutes, she'll
right.
take whatever she can get,
Yeah,
right? But do my best to hone off the mom guilt, right?
yeah,
Of letting my child watch a screen, right?
yeah,
Because that 20 minutes is going to make mommy a better mommy, right?
yes.
Whether it's a business part of mommy's life or personal part of mommy's life, um, 20 minutes is not going to make or break my child's entire education,
No,
but it can
no.
make or break my sanity for the day.
100%. And the time you spend with her later, right? I always think
Correct.
about that too. Sometimes it's worth giving up a little to gain a lot more because now that time is quality. You're not low key thinking and stressed the whole time you're playing, unicorns with her. Like, oh, I should be writing that
Correct.
blah. Like, you can be present in that playtime, which could be 20 minutes less, but it's much more rich, right? Then
Yeah.
I'll just like be around all day, but I'm not really around all day because I'm stressed by my to-do list in my head,
Correct.
so to speak, or I haven't moved my body for myself, or I haven't eaten anything, like whatever the thing is that like we should be taking care of that really needs to be at the top of that list, regardless.
Exactly. Which is why I love like the digital side of marketing because I can move it around with my schedule because every day might look different. Sometimes I'll
Mm-hmm.
do it in the morning before everyone wakes up. Other times it's when everyone goes to bed, but sometimes it has to be in the middle of the day. So that
Yeah.
is when I'll carve that time out for myself. I'll do what I need to do from a business perspective, right? Whether it's blogging, the social media, all that kind of stuff. Um, but then she gets to have that time. But then I know it's done because I gave
Yeah.
myself that time.
Yeah.
And then I don't have to think about, okay, well, when am I going to fit it into my day? Or feeling guilty that I didn't
Right.
fit it into my day.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I can
Right.
just be there with her and enjoy it.
Right. Because it's a total catch 22. You're gonna feel
Correct.
guilt around something. But like,
Yep.
what's the real, like, isn't that the actual emotion that like attaches to that situation, and or what's the better thing to feel the guilt around, I guess, so to speak, or like
Yeah.
learn to unfeel it over time.
Yeah.
Um, One last question before we kind of wrap up. I'm just thinking on this theme of putting yourself first. I'm kind of channeling this idea of like the year of you, really thinking of like, this is your year, your life, it's your story. What are you doing with it? And I know, as you mentioned earlier, with that shift to something that felt right for you and like making that kind of career leap, um, like just whether it's about that example specifically or just in general, what has helped you fight some of that stereotypical like mom guilt, or you should be at the bottom, or everyone comes first, or like whatever, we all come from different backgrounds and ways we've learned about the world and how we live in it. But what sort of helps you keep yourself at the top of your to-do list, or gives you permission to make those moves in your career or throughout the day
Yeah.
to kind of
Yeah.
make your life about you because it is your life.
It is. And I think having a fantastic support system is first and foremost, right? I'm very fortunate where my partner is phenomenal and very
Mm,
encouraging and just wants me to be happy no matter what that is. Some people don't have that. So if you don't have that, finding a community where you have that. The beautiful thing about online is there are forums everywhere, especially if you go on Facebook groups
yeah.
where people of like minds are collaborating and just surrounding yourself with people who have done it or are doing it so you know it's possible for you. And giving yourself permission to kind of take up space, to be in the room, to find
Mm,
your voice with it.
mm,
That's probably a big piece of it. And allowing yourself the opportunity to make mistakes, know that you're
mm.
not going to get it right the first time, right? That you're going to pivot and that's okay. That's why I liked having multiple income streams, right? And this is probably
Yeah.
a topic for a whole different day, but that
Yeah.
flexibility
Yeah.
allows me to play and to be creative because I know, okay, making this one pivot isn't going to
Make or break our
completely
rent or
sink my
food
ship.
or
Exactly.
yeah,
Right? I
exactly.
have other options. Um, so regardless whether you are using, in my world, the clinical hat, the non-clinical hat, or doing something completely different and say opening a bakery, whatever it
Yeah.
is, right?
Yeah.
Um, you have that flexibility because I've built that ahead of time and marketing kind of dips its fingers into all of that, which is why I fell in love with it.
That's awesome.
Um, but it gives me that flexibility, which is needed because we all evolve. Even if you are staying in one field and that's your field of choice forever, you might want to do
wanna
different
grow in it.
topics, different populations. Yeah. And
Yeah.
to be able to pivot. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I read today somewhere, again, I don't know if this is 100% true, but it sounded like right. But it was like most millionaires have at least like 7 sources of
Mhm.
income streams. Like no one, and not that we all need to be a millionaire. I mean, who wouldn't want to be one? But like we don't, it doesn't have to be everyone's goal. But like just the idea that yes, even like the folks who are making all the money, it isn't just necessarily only from one place. Like I think it is such a beautiful reminder that like diversity can be beneficial, not just monetarily, but like in so many ways, and giving ourselves permission to sometimes step out of that box and like
Yeah.
explore all those parts of us.
And it doesn't have to be like 7 different jobs, right? I know when people
No, we
sometimes
don't, it
think
doesn't
like
have to be
7 like
seven.
different income streams, they
No,
freak out like,
no,
how the heck am I
no.
gonna fit
They
that?
have a lot of people they pay to run those 7 jobs.
Yes. Like, so for
Yes.
me, it is the evaluations in my private
Mhm.
practice. I have a couple one-on-one clients that I still see. Coaching is the other way, digital products, affiliate
Mhm.
marketing, right?
Yeah.
Sponsorship, all those different things play a role, and they're all different income streams coming in. Some are
Right.
more than others,
Right.
but there's never
All eggs
all
in one
eggs in one
basket.
basket kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is very freeing. And I think we live in a world now where that is much more possible than our grandparents or even our
Correct.
parents maybe could have done. It wasn't the same with internet and all the things. It makes that more feasible and something interesting to think about, which hopefully maybe we'll come back and we'll talk about multiple income streams on
Sure.
another week, because it's also a fun topic. Well, just to kind of round it out, I know you've given us so much to think about and some really helpful tips and ways to maybe kind of conceptualize and think about really capitalizing on the energy of the new year. But what might be one kind of last little piece of wisdom or thought you really want to make sure people heard, or something new you want to leave people with?
If you were going to learn one skill this new year, right? It would be invest in marketing, right? Learning how to market, whether it's yourself and what your skill sets are, whether that is marketing your business. It's basically finding your voice, and how do you share your voice in a way that's authentic to you,
Mm-hmm.
but also doesn't sound like that creepy used car salesman either,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you don't want to be selling people junk that they don't need. That just feels
Right.
skeezy on so many levels.
Right.
But what you want is to be able to shine light on the talents and the services that you can provide, and
Mm.
help people make informed decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And present all the options in front of them. And that's what good marketing does. I do it through blogging. Many other people and coaches will do it through other ways. You have to find what works for you. But if blogging is something that is interested in, I'd be happy to help. But regardless, if you can learn how to market yourself and marketing strategies, that I think will set you up tenfold for many, many years to come.
I love that. And then where can folks like find you, or what can they, is there things that you offer specifically that if people are interested, I'll make sure to have your links, but what might they be able to get working with you?
Sure. So I have, for your audience, if anyone wants kind of a little intro to blogging, I created some free blog templates to help get you started. They really create a nice, strong outline for you. There's headlines, there's keywords. So all you have to do is kind of put your knowledge into it, which is a great place to start. And I know you'll share that link on different web pages that are available. And if you want, they're also welcome to come follow me on Instagram, to kind of check out what I have. I put a bunch of different daily tips up there. There's also information on how to get on my email list, and that's at Stressless Enterprises LLC. But again, I'll give you the link to that so it makes it nice and clickable for people.
Yes, it will be in both the newsletter, and then here, if you're on YouTube, it'll be in the description below. So definitely connect with Alexandria if you're interested in learning more about marketing, blogging, if you like her vibe and just want to chat with her more, keep up with her, be sure to follow her. Thanks so much for being here and kicking off the year and spending your time with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a fantastic 2025, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. But for everyone else listening,
Yes,
I can't wait to
definitely.
hear what you do with.
Have a great day. See you next
Take
week.
care.